right, you guys. So basically, the purpose of the seminar today, as we pointed out, let me go ahead and get the screen up so you guys can see the title. But what we're going to be talking about, everybody should be able to see this right now. What we're talking about today is we're talking about the 4 food groups of music publishing and how to collect. One of the things that Michael and I have recognized as both being, authors and regular lecturers, is that there's a lot of confusion with regards to what sort of royalties that you are entitled to as the author and owner of a song, and basically how to collect them. There seems to be a lot of confusion about this. Okay, let's just see. Am I getting any? Okay, it looks like I'm okay. Right? Sounds good to me. Okay, and there's also a lot of language that's used that is incorrect. Just me scanning TikTok and other like really relevant sources for information. You have these people talking about things like my Twitch royalties and my TikTok royalties and my Spotify royalties, and they're I get why they're saying that, but really we're going to simplify all of this for you, because it really just boils down to what Michael and I call the 4 food groups of music publishing. So let's go ahead and first talk about something to make sure that you guys are really, really clear about what we're talking about. Obviously, you guys know that music publishing means to make your music available for commercial sale to the public, and it deals with everything that has to do with plugging your songs, licensing your songs, collected money from your songs, policing your songs, and so on and so forth. But there is also another type of copyright that we need to talk about, and that is the master copyright. So when you create an original song, you take an idea from your head and you transform it into a tangible form, you have basically a copyright, right? And this gives you an exclusive bundle of rights in the United States copyright law. But when you actually take that song and you record that song as well, the sound recording, the performance of that song is another copyright. So we just want to be really clear that today we're only talking about the song copyright. And this is also the major form of confusion that exists, because a lot of times people think that the money that you are supposed to collect on the publishing side is collected by the distributor, and that's actually not true. The distributor does collect on the master side, but they're not collecting for you on the song side, unless of course they have a service and you give them authorization to collect, through their service. But this is a very, very important thing that we wanted to make sure that we discuss with you. Michael, anything else that you want to add to this?
I think knowing that we have a bunch of people in here from other countries as well, this will probably be a bit of a U.S. focus today on the U.S. market for publishing, but know that these same 4 food groups that we're going to be talking about exist all over the world. It's just that we may, there are elements of this that we'll be focusing on that are U.S. centric as far as how you collect them, which we'll explain when we get to the next slide.
Right. Excellent. All right. Good point. All right. So let's go ahead and move on then. And let's talk about the money you can earn. So if you guys want to go ahead and take a snapshot of this, I highly recommend that you do, because essentially we've really simplified everything for you. And we want you guys to kind of think of things in the same way. So when you talk about the money that you can earn, or the type of money that you can earn as a result of being the author and owner of a song, it boils down to really 4 food groups of music publishing. It boils down to mechanical royalties, performance royalties, synchronization royalties. We call it sync for short, and the industry calls it sync for short, and also print royalties. That's it, you guys. These are the 4 types of money that you can make from music publishing. Now, when these 4 food groups are used in the digital space, oftentimes they're referred to as electronic transmissions, and sometimes they're separated and talked about in a different way, because the methods of collecting and how they sort of paid are different. So oftentimes people group it into what's called electronic transmissions. And just as Michael said, when these 4 food groups are used in foreign territories, oftentimes it's referred to as foreign subpublishing. But again, you guys, make no mistake, it all boils down to these four food groups: mechanical, performance, sync, and print. So that's all you really need to know about, okay? So Michael, what do you say that we actually just go ahead and go through each one real quick, and we'll talk about sort of what they are in really simple forms, and then we'll go ahead and talk about how to collect. So
Sure.
I'll go ahead and start talking about mechanical royalties really quickly, you guys. So essentially, and we're really simplifying everything for you. We're talking a mechanical royalty simply is a royalty that you get for the reproduction of your songs on record. Okay. Another way to look at it is the copying of your song on record. Let's just say, for example, right now, that can get really complicated. So again, we're going to keep it really simple. So what that basically means is when you take your song and your song is copied on a CD, you remember those? Or when your song is copied on vinyl, still cool and hip, right? Or when your song is, used as a digital download, which you remember those, right? We don't have those much anymore either. But nonetheless, this generates what's called a mechanical royalty, okay? You might be entitled to a mechanical royalty, right? Now, the problem with all of this, you guys, is that typically in the DIY world and independent artist world, you are the record company. You are the one that's initiating the copy of your song on CD. You are the one that's initiating a copy of your song on vinyl, and you're the one that's initiating your copy of your song on a digital download. So how do you collect the mechanical royalty? Well, you knock on the right side of your head and you go, give me my mechanical royalty, which you're not going to do, right? Because you are the record company. So if you're expecting a mechanical royalty in that particular area, you're not going to get one. Keeping things simple. Okay. Now, where you will get a mechanical royalty is when we're talking about streaming royalties, with interactive streaming companies. Like the most popular one, of course, would most likely be Spotify, but of course there's Tidal and Apple Music as well, right? Now, in this particular case, the collection becomes a little different. And just so that you guys know, not to get overly technical, but when your music is in, people are interacting with this stream, it has to cache on your computer in order for you to interact with it, which is where the copy exists. So there is a mechanical royalty that now is due to you. And Michael is going to briefly talk about the MLC and the absolute necessity for you to sign up if you expect to actually collect these royalties. So.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bobby. Some of you may have heard about back in 2018, there was a piece of legislation in Washington, D.C. called the Music Modernization Act, or the MMA. It did three main things, but we're only going to focus on the MLC portion of it today, which in the MLC stands for Mechanical Licensing Collective. And what it is that, prior to January, so the MLC started operating January 1st of this year. So it's entirely new. And the reason why we're so excited that this exists is that prior to the MLC, every interactive streaming service, like Bobby just mentioned, Spotify, Apple, Tidal, Amazon, like all these things, they each hired their own third-party vendor to help them figure out who to pay. And that meant each vendor had their own database. So, we as songwriters and publishers had to make sure that all of our song information was accurate in every single database. That's cumbersome, that's difficult, it's time-consuming, and it can maybe be correct at one and not correct at others, and then you're not getting paid. So the MMA established the MLC, where now all of those streaming services, it's basically one-stop shopping, as it were, through the MLC. So we only have one database that we need to worry about, only one place to get all your songs registered correctly, and then you'll get paid from all those services. But where it's really important in the DIY independent artist world is, and I'm on one of the committees with the MLC called the Unclaimed Royalties Oversight Committee. So this is a huge topic for us, which is we're trying to join the MLC in their incredible efforts they've been going through to communicate hey, we exist, sign up with us, register your songs, or you're not going to get paid. So, if for those of you who are not in a publishing deal and you are receiving or you're receiving streams in the United States, you should go to themlc.com. Just those 6 letters, themlc.com. They have a lot of great information on the site. You can also click to join, explain who you are. But if you have an administrator already or you're in a publishing deal, you won't be able to become a member because they are the member, because the member is whoever's collecting the mechanical royalty. But any self-published songwriter, you should absolutely go into their public search, look up your songs, and you can see whether your information is there or not. And maybe it's there, but it could be incorrect. You can interface with their amazing customer service team to get in there and get things updated.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that, Michael. Let's go ahead and move on to the second food group. And I just want to remind the audience that what we're talking about, again, is the money that you earn from the author and ownership of a song. And we are not talking about the master right now. And the reason why I'm stating this again is because there are some questions that are coming in about Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange deals with the digital performance of your master recording. So we're not talking about masters right now. We will talk about masters on our next seminar that we're going to have for you guys, Michael. And that date is what?
December 7th. And I'm going to respond to some of these questions in the chat so we can keep going since we've got a limited amount of time. But some
absolutely,
of the questions that have come up, keep going on performance, and I'll
right
answer some of these.
Yeah, so we'll deal with that in the chat, you guys, any questions that you guys, but I just wanted to redirect that we are talking about your songs here. We're not talking about anything else. So try to really put that, try to really focus on that, okay? And the reason why I'm really taking the time, Michael, to stress this is because this is exactly what causes all of the confusion, is that people have difficulty like compartmentalizing all of these different areas. And if you can learn to do that, I think it's going to save you guys a lot of headaches. So moving on to the second food group is performance royalties, which in essence is exactly what the way it's what it is. It's a performance royalty that you get for the public performances of your compositions, right? So when your music is publicly performed, primarily on places like the radio, primarily on television, primarily on the internet, and even what's called general licenses, like malls and and movie restaurants, etc., with some exclusions, but nonetheless, you are entitled to what's called a performance royalty. Now, there's a lot of problems with this now in terms of a lot of misunderstanding, because how do you generally collect those royalties? Well, there's what's called PROs, or performing rights organizations, that exist. The 3 major ones in the United States are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. But I want to be clear to you guys that what these organizations do is they protect the performing rights of authors and owners of songs like me and you. And they collect on your behalf. They are not a publishing company. A lot of people think that, a PRO is a publishing company. There's some confusion there. I understand why, but they collect performance royalties for you by monitoring, radio and television and other places as well, to figure out how many times your song was used during a specific period. And then they take money that they have collected from people that are licensing the repertoire from them, and they figure out how much of that money goes to you. Now, is it very possible that your music does get played on the radio? Or is it possible that maybe you're getting some internet performances and you are getting statements back that say you have maybe 0 money collected in performance royalties? Is that possible? And the answer is yes. It's not a 100% perfect system that's in place, but so don't expect that, cha-ching, 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 as soon as you sign up for ASCAP and BMI. You kind of have to be patient with this. But certainly you do have to make sure that you register with them or affiliate with them or join them. Different places use different words. And that's pretty much, I mean, let's keep it really simple and straightforward. So performance royalties technically could be another form of royalty that you earn from owning a song and authoring a song. Michael, anything else that you want to add to that?
Just for those that may not have seen it in the chat, Gail McGregor mentioned an important thing, which is, if you perform live a lot, now that things are opening back up again, domestically, ASCAP and BMI both have a way where you can submit your set lists online and then potentially get paid, for some of your live performances. But, do not expect to be, paid for every performance, because it's too hard with all the monitoring. Over in Europe, like Bert from Belgium is here, and other countries, and for those, whenever you're performing live, they're much smaller countries and easier to control, and the set lists go to the PRO, you get paid. There's a lot of money overseas for live performances, but here in the US it's generally limited to like the top 200 or 300 highest grossing tours that go around the country.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on this topic, I just want to let you guys know that, I was a member of a major label group that had records out that were indeed getting played on the radio. And we were on the tour bus on the way to those cities going, oh shit, we're on the radio. How awesome. And then you would expect that you would get your statement and that some of those performances would have got picked up by my ASCAP or PRO. And they didn't. And it would say, we're sorry to say that you have zero money collected this quarter. And but in those particular instances, they did have what's called a reward program, where I did write in and say, hey, I'm legitimately this guy that's in this band and we have records out, and like, what's going on? And they would kind of make allowances for the fact that they realized that not everything gets picked up on their surveys. And I would get like small chunks of money, but at least it made me feel better that, we were getting something. So yeah. Just again, performance royalties, don't expect that it's just going to start raining performance royalties immediately. You have to be patient with this. Okay. All right. Moving on to the third food group is synchronization royalties. Synchronization royalties are essentially the royalties that you get when your music is merged with a visual image. So the main categories of this would be when your music is used in a film, when your music is used in a television show. These are the main categories of when your music is used in a video game. So, does that just happen like automatically? Like all of a sudden, hey, awesome, man, my stuff is in television, No, typically what's happening here, you guys, is if you are representing yourself and you have access to finding people that are interested in putting your music in television or film or video games or advertisements, then the licenses are going to be negotiated, between the two parties, and that money is going to come from the person licensing it directly to you, essentially. So there's no surprises there. Could you do this yourself? Yeah, I have friends that do this directly all the time. The other option obviously would be if you bring someone else in, if there's some sort of third party representing you, like a Michael Ames at Penn Music Group, or you have a music publisher that's working with you, or if you have a song plugger that's maybe working with you, or you guys enlist some DIY friendly company like CD Baby Pro, and you give them a permission to actually try to scout out sync deals for you. But essentially, I mean, that's what it boils down to with regards to the money that you're going to get. Now, there might be a little bit more complex area if we want to get into this when your music is used in videos. Michael, should we go down that path really quickly? I mean,
yeah, well, I think very briefly, I think just because, the Twitches and YouTubes of the world are kind of a big thing now. So, yeah, you can stop me, but I'll be really quick. Let's hit YouTube real quick. Obviously it's an audio visual, and basically the way they do have licenses with the PROs, so there's a performance royalty that goes back through your society, whichever you're a member of. But the way in which we as songwriters and publishers get paid for the use of our music in all these videos on YouTube is we're sharing in the ad revenue from YouTube. We're all certainly know about all those ads, but we're entitled to a piece of it. And either your publisher or any service you sign up to, it's an important stream of income these days. On the newer platforms like Twitch and TikTok and all these sorts of things, these are the we're always in publishing following the technology. They're always using songs in new ways that none of us anticipated, and we're always chasing them to get them licensed and get paid. And they all have performance licenses now, but literally the industry, as Bobby and I are talking today, are getting licenses and deals in place with these companies. So we need to give it another year or two before the publishing side really sees how you can kind of monetize things on a use-by-use basis. But it's incredibly complex. But know that it is there because it's combining the sync element and the performance element of these four basic food groups. How's that, Bobby? You want me to do anything else?
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that, Michael. Okay, so moving on real quick, you guys, now let's talk about print royalties. So what essentially print royalties are is when your music is used in printed form. And there's a couple basic forms. There's actually sheet music. There's what's called a folio. There's what's called a mixed folio and what's called a matching folio. So what the hell is a folio, right? A folio is the word that they use in the print world, which is basically a collection of works. And those collections could either be a collection that matches your exact record, or it could be a collection of a number of different of your songs, or it could be a collection with other people, like, sort of like the biggest guitar hits of the 80s or something like that. Now you might be wondering, okay, wow, that sounds pretty awesome. And it's like, it is awesome. Like when you're big enough for people to care about putting your music in these types of books. So in other words, you don't just walk into Sam Ash and then all of a sudden, they have a matching folio of you. Typically what happens when you get to a certain point in your career and there's an interest and demand, that's where you're going to see this stuff happening. I mean, could you actually by yourself, say, hey, I'm going to do a, sheet music on my own music and I'm going to put it up on my website and I'm going to sell it? Could you do that? Absolutely, you could do that if you'd like. But generally the way most people do it is they get to a certain point where there's demand, and then you might have a music publisher that's working with you that gets in touch with the music printer. And then the music printer creates these books. And then, of course, the music publisher is collecting that money for you. Now, there is one area that people might be wondering about when it comes to print. And that is any printed reform of your lyrics, such as like on a website like Genius. So Michael will talk to you real quick about the intricacies of collecting that money. But again, it's a new space, and it's also, the money that if any that's available would probably be small in comparison to the other things we've talked about so far. So Michael, anything to add on that real quick?
Yeah, just real quick so we can hit on foreign sub-publishing before we close. But, all in all, the streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music and stuff now, you have started to see that lyrics are involved. And we as songwriters and publishers are participating in that. We're getting money from that. So, it's just something that we have, as digital has been growing, print over the years has gone down and down and down as far as an income source, but it's kind of slowly creeping back up now because we have all these digital outlets that want lyrics, and we therefore make sure we can monetize that. So it's an important thing to make sure that you do always deliver your lyrics to your distributor, because if you don't deliver them, no one's going to show them.
So foreign sub-publishing is basically not a type of money, but it's a source of money. So in other words, when mechanicals, performance, sync, and print, which are our four food groups, are used in foreign territories, then there is what we call foreign sub-publishing income. We call it something different because it's kind of handled differently in other countries. But so essentially making this really easy and wrapping up quickly, you guys, you need a sub-publisher. You need a publisher that represents those territories to collect the money for you. And the problem is that not all sub-publishers are going to want to work with you if you're this small DIY artist in the US and there's not a whole lot of money. So how do you collect that money? Well, through a company called Song Trust, through a relationship they have with CD Baby Pro, is one way that you can do that. Michael, anything that you want to add to that? Because we're really coming down to the end here.
Yeah, just, I think it's important to point out that, outside the United States, the rates that you get paid, particularly for mechanicals, are higher than they are here. So, don't ever disregard the international market. Your performances in theory will come back to you through your PRO, but again, you should really figure out a sub-publishing relationship with someone, whether you'd go through an existing publisher or, like as Bobby said, a Song Trust, or TuneCore has their own publishing administration service. So there's lots of different options. Those are not your only options. They're just two that I think are, they're right there at the fingertips, because if you distribute through CD Baby and TuneCore, they pretty much barrage you with those options.
And just as a quick, in case you're wondering, oh, well, I'm never going to get played in foreign territory. I can barely get like my own hometown to play me or whatever, on the radio, or, when you put your stuff on Spotify, essentially, let's just say, for example, your song is on Spotify. It's not just streaming in the US, it's streaming in other countries. So bingo, you might be entitled right there to a mechanical and a streaming royalty in a foreign territory. So there you have it.
And where these all tie together, too, is if you were to get a sync in a TV show, those TV shows are being shown all over the world, and they're going to generate all the performance income that'll come back to you, and maybe they'll go to a stream and generate mechanicals, so it all feeds on itself.
So you guys, we like to keep things really, really simple and break down the basics so that it sticks. This is a very complicated subject, but Michael and I actually have a book called Introduction to Music Publishing for Musicians, which is available on Amazon. It just came out actually 2 months ago. We're really proud of it. And if you guys liked the material that we're talking about today, it is available in that book. Another way to kind of keep in touch with us is I have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/Bobby Borg. And I release videos twice weekly about music publishing and about music business and about a whole lot of other stuff too. So 100% free, and there's no pitch to join my course. So go over there and sign up. And then Michael can be found on Instagram.com/Pen Music Group. So please sign up for him there. You guys, if you have any questions for us, leave it leave it wherever you're supposed to leave it. And you're supposed to leave it in the community tab. And then Michael and I will come back. Yeah, we'll come back in the next.
We're gonna post the answers to any of your questions in the community forum. So please make sure to do that. And welcome to the end of the first webinar in the Bandsintown Artist Community Forum. And we're thrilled that you were here. And here's to many more.
Absolutely. And thank you very much to Bandsintown for having us. And again, we'll be back on December 10th to maybe talk about the it's December 7th, to maybe talk about the master side of the royalties so that you guys can understand the difference. And remember, we try to keep things simple, and you guys should try to keep things simple too and not confuse yourselves with all of this stuff. Try to compartmentalize all this information. Okay. So thanks very much, you guys. Peace, love, and we're out. Thank you.